Hey guys, thank you so much for joining me for today's at-home deep core and pelvic floor strengthening routine. In today's Pilates workout, I'm going to be teaching you some strategies, techniques, and exercises to strengthen your deep core and pelvic floor muscles. In today's workout, we're not going to need any equipment, so let's go ahead and get right into it. So connecting with the pelvic floor muscles can be a little bit challenging, so I'm going to walk you through the way it was explained to me that I really still visualize and think about to this day when I'm doing Pilates. We'll begin with some core engagement breathing, and then we'll move into some pelvic floor engagement before we hit the mat. So I'm going to start off in a nice seated position. My hips are evenly weighted. The vertebrae are stacked one on top of the other, sitting up nice and tall. Shoulders are down, neck is long, and the chin is parallel with the floor. I'm going to place my hands on my abdominals, and we're just going to breathe deeply, getting into the Pilates breath in through the nose, filling the back of the rib cage. And then slowly out through the mouth through pursed lips. Deflating the rib cage. Breathing in through the nose and slowly out through the mouth, letting the shoulders relax as you do so. Now we're going to focus on adding the core engagement as we breathe in and out. So as we inhale, we're relaxing the abdominals. And as we exhale, we're drawing the belly button in toward the spine, tightening the core. Breathing in through the nose. And as we exhale, we're going to draw the belly button in toward the spine. Now I want you to imagine you have a corset or a belt around your waist. So as we breathe out, we're tightening that corset or that belt around the waist. Good. Inhale. And as we exhale, we engage the core muscles, drawing the abdominals away from your fingers as you do so throughout the entire range of exhale. Good. Inhale, letting that belt or corset relax, and exhale, tightening everything in. Nicely done. Now, for the pelvic floor, if you're not used to engaging these muscles, I'm going to explain it like this. Imagine there is a little elevator inside your body, and it's starting off down at the lowest level. So that elevator is sort of inside those pelvic floor muscles, and we're going to use those pelvic floor muscles to lift the elevator up. So thinking about pelvic floor muscles, it's the muscles that you would be using if you were preventing yourself from going to the bathroom, from peeing. So if we want to contract those pelvic floor muscles, we want to draw those muscles in and up. So imagine that little elevator inside your body. It's lifting up, 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 up. As we lift those pelvic floor muscles, lift, lift, lift. Lift it as high as you can and then release. So imagine that elevator on floor 1, and as we lift it up, we're going to try to lift it all the way up to floor 10. So deep inhale to prepare. And as we exhale, let's lift that elevator up, 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 up. Keep going up, 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 up. Maximum engagement of those pelvic floor muscles. The elevator's lifted, and then release. Nicely done. Now, luckily in Pilates, you're not aiming to have the pelvic floor muscles completely maxed out or lifted to the 10th floor, thinking about that elevator. You want them sort of 50% engaged. So imagining that elevator at about the 5th floor. So let's practice that. We're going to take a nice deep breath in through the nose. And as we exhale, we're going to lift that pelvic floor, lift that elevator up, 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 and up. Hold it there to about 50% engagement, the 5th floor, and then slowly release. Good. Let's match that with the breath. So we're breathing in through the nose. And as we exhale, we're lifting that little elevator up to the 5th floor, lifting those pelvic floor muscles, and then relax. Good. Inhale and exhale, lifting. 50% engagement, and then relax. Good. Inhale, prepare. Exhale, lift those pelvic floor muscles. And inhale, relax. Good. Now we're going to try to combine the core engagement with the pelvic floor engagement. It can be a little bit tricky, but you'll eventually get the hang of it if you keep practicing. So you can place your hands on your abdominals if that helps for feedback. We're going to inhale. And as we exhale, we're going to draw the belly in toward the spine. And as we do so, we're also going to lift those pelvic floor muscles, engaging, engaging, engaging. Good, and relax. Inhale and exhale. Belly to spine and engage those pelvic floor muscles. Hold everything in, lifted and tight, and then relax. Good. Take a couple more breaths. Inhale, relax. Exhale, lifting the pelvic floor muscles and engaging the core. Inhale, relax. Exhale, lifting and engaging, keeping the shoulders relaxed. And last one. Amazing work. Okay, let's move down to the mat now. So we're going to roll down one vertebra at a time and touching the head, neck, and shoulders down to the floor. We're going to move into some pelvic tilts here. So I'd like you to take your hands on your lower abdominals. Legs are about hip distance apart here. We want to ensure that there's a little bit of space between the low back and the mat, enough that you could slot your hand just between your low back and the floor. From this position, we're going to tilt the pelvis forward and backward. So I want you to imagine you've got a clock balanced on your abdomen. We're going to tilt the pelvis forward, so towards 6 o'clock, creating a big space between the low back and the mat. Take an inhale here. And as you exhale, I want you to tilt the pelvis back toward 12 o'clock and flatten your low back on the mat so there's no space between your lower back on the floor. We're not lifting our bum here, we're just flattening our spine down toward the floor. So we're inhaling, exaggerating that arch in the low back. And as we exhale, we're tilting back, flattening the low back on the mat. So tilt forward to 6 o'clock and then backward on the exhale toward 12 o'clock. Good. Now we're going to add that pelvic floor engagement if you haven't already. So as we come forward, we're relaxing the pelvic floor muscles. And as we tilt back, we're lifting those pelvic floor muscles, engaging the core and pressing the low back down onto the floor. Good. Inhale, tilt forward, relax. Exhale, tilt backward toward 12 o'clock. Lift your pelvic floor muscles and engage your core. Good. Inhale, tilt forward. Exhale, tilt back. Tightening the core, lifting pelvic floor muscles. Amazing work. Inhale and exhale. Tilting forward and tilting back, engaging, lifting pelvic floor muscles. Keeping those legs parallel. It's a small range of movement, but you can really use this simple exercise to really engage those pelvic floor muscles. Really focus on the pelvic floor muscles, lifting as you tilt the pelvis back. Good. Inhale and exhale for 2. And final 1. I want you to tilt your pelvis back and leave your pelvis tilted back so your low back stays pressing into the mat. We're going to go into some bridges here. So we're going to keep the pelvis tilted back. Tailbone is tucked, and we're going to peel the lower back up off the mat, peel the middle back off the mat, and lift into a bridge. Not overarching here. So we're creating a nice flat surface. Good. Lifting the pelvic floor muscles, engaging the core, and then lowering down one vertebra at a time. Good. Inhale, tilt the pelvis forward. Exhale, tilt the pelvis back. Lifting the tailbone, engaging pelvic floor, tightening the core as you lift. Good. Keeping those heels positioned underneath the knees. Lower. Good. Arch the back, tilt pelvis forward, then tilt pelvis back and peel up. Good. Lower. Amazing work. Tilt forward to 6 o'clock, tilt backward to 12. Lift the pelvic floor, engage the back body and press up. Good. Last one. We're going to tilt the pelvis back, lift the hips and hold in bridge. We're now going to go into some knee abductions, and if it gets to be too much holding into bridge, you can lower the bum down and continue from the floor. So we're going to widen the knees, inhale, and as we exhale, we're going to bring the legs back to parallel, and as we do so, we really want to create a nice tight seam running up through the middle of the body. So the pelvic floor is elevating, the core is engaging. Good. Widen those knees, and then as they come back together on the exhale, we're drawing everything in nice and tight. Imagining that corset, imagining that elevator. Good. Again, if it's too much with the hips lifted, simply lower the bum down to the mat, create a flat back on the floor, and keep moving. Widening those knees and bringing them back to parallel for 4, 3, 2, and final 1. Soften your spine down to the mat. Nice work. Now we're going to do some knee taps from our bridge position. Again, if it's too much in bridge, I would like you to keep your hips down on the floor, but maintain a flat back. So I'm going to do the first few on the floor to show you. I'm tilting my pelvis back. Legs are still hip distance apart. I'm squeezing the knees together, really lifting through the pelvic floor, and then widening the knees back to parallel. Squeezing knees together, holding for a split second, and then widening the knees back to parallel. Good. So you're doing this on the floor, or you're tilting the pelvis back and lifting up into your bridge. Nice flat surface here. Lower back is not overextending. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, squeeze the knees together. Engage the pelvic floor. Good. Back to parallel and squeeze knees together. Amazing work. Squeeze those knees together. Nicely done. Again, imagining that nice tight seam running up the middle of the body as you lift through the pelvic floor and tighten the belly button down toward the spine. You're also working your back body muscles here. Thighs and glutes are working. Good. We've got 3 and 2 and final 1. And stretch your arms back and gently lower each individual vertebra down toward the floor, one at a time. Bring your knees in towards your chest. Nice work. Now from this position, I'm going to lower my feet down to the floor and keep the inside of the feet together, but widen the knees. So again, I really like to use the widening and closing of the knees to help me really engage my pelvic floor muscles. I'm going to bring my arms overhead, palms facing up toward the ceiling. We're going to inhale here, and as we exhale, we're going to squeeze the legs together and curl and crunch up. So inhale and exhale. Inhale, lower. Exhale, curl and crunch up, creating that nice tight seam running up the middle of the body. If it's too much with your arms moving up and down, I'd like you to support your head with your interlaced fingers. This might be a little less strenuous on your neck. Otherwise, arms overhead and curling and crunching up like so. Good. Creating that nice tight seam, lifting through your pelvic floor, drawing both sides of your rectus abdominis together as you curl and crunch up, Squeezing legs together. Let's go 5. Peeling head, neck, and shoulders up off the mat. Working that core. Good. For 2. And final 1. And soften down. Nice work. Now, for a little bit more of a challenge, I'm going to bring my legs into tabletop. If that's too much, you can keep your feet flat on the floor. So from this position, the knees are above the hips. If you feel like your lower back is really arching off the mat here, you can bring your knees in a little bit closer toward your chest. From here, hands come overhead, palms facing up toward the ceiling. I'm going to widen my knees apart and then bring them back to tabletop as we curl and crunch up. If you've got your feet on the floor, it looks like this. Good. Widening and bringing those legs together. Otherwise, you're here, widening those legs and then tightening everything in as you bring the legs together and curl and crunch up. Lifting your pelvic floor, drawing your abdominals, both sides of your abdominals together, nice and tight. Again, you can support your head in your hands if that feels more comfortable on the neck. Let's go 5, 4, breathe out to engage, 3, 2, you're doing great. And final 1, relax head, neck, and shoulders down. Now, if your hands aren't already here, I'd like you to interlace your fingers behind your head. We're going to bring the insides of the feet together again. Knees splay out to the side, and we're going to go into a double crunch here. So we're going to inhale to prepare and exhale, tapping elbows and knees together and then lowering down. So again, lift your pelvic floor as you lift your tailbone up off the mat and lower on the inhale. Exhale, lift, tightening abdominal wall, lifting pelvic floor as you tap elbows and knees together. Good, working your upper abs, working your lower abs, working that deep core engagement. Good, move slowly, move with control, and really challenge yourself by picking your tailbone up off the floor. Holding for a split second, not rushing it, holding that engagement, and then lowering back down for 3 and 2. And on our last one, we're going to come up and hold. So deep inhale. And exhale, breathing the air out of the lungs, lifting through the pelvic floor, flattening the abdominal wall for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Lower down. Nice work. Take your right hand over your right knee, left hand over your left knee, and just circle those knees out in opposite directions. Opening up in the hips, breathing in through the nose, and out through the mouth. Nice work. From here, we're going to roll up and move ourselves into a side lying position to work some of the lower body muscles as we continue to connect with those pelvic floor muscles. So I'd like you to prop yourself up on your hand or your outstretched arm. I'm going to line my knees up with my hips and my shins are parallel with the floor, making right angles with the legs. Opposite hand is down on the mat. We're going to go into some leg lifts, keeping the legs parallel. Point the toes and lower. Lift, inhale, and as you exhale, I want you to move down with resistance. So we're moving down slowly, pressing that leg down toward the lower leg. And as we do so, we're breathing out. And again, we're lifting those pelvic floor muscles and engaging those abs. Let's go 8. 7, don't let that top hip roll back. Keep it stacked on top of the lower hip, engaging those glutes. Let's go 4, Squeeze the abs. Engage the pelvic floor. Good. 2. And last 1. Nice work. Now we're going to bend the knees a little bit more, bringing the heels closer toward the bum. And we're going to go into some clamshells. Again, inhaling to open and then exhaling, squeezing to close. Lifting the pelvic floor muscles, engaging the belly to the spine. Now, if you want a little bit more of a challenge here, we're going to pick up the lower part of the legs. If that's too much, keep them down on the mat. For 9, good. 8, squeezing to close. 7, lifting pelvic floor muscles. As we breathe out. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Great work. Soften down. Okay, we're going to switch sides. Coming down onto the side body. Supporting head in hand or on outstretched arm. Stacking the hips, knees, and shins, pointing the toes. Hand is on the mat for support. Good. We're lifting and then we're pressing that leg down with resistance. Lifting and lowering. Inhale and engage your core. Lift your pelvic floor as you close those legs. Good. For 10 and 9, squeeze to close. Good. Lengthen through the neck. Don't let your shoulders hunch up by your ears. Let's go. 3, 2, maintaining parallel with those legs and hips. And final 1. Bend the knees, bringing the heels a little closer to the bum. Starting off down on the floor with those lower legs in that clamshell. Good. Lifting through the pelvic floor every time you close those legs. Good. Core is tight. Nice. Lift the lower legs for more of a challenge for the final 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Lift with every exhale. 3, 2, and 1. Amazing work. Lower it down. Great. Now from here, we're going to lift ourselves up into a seated position and just finish off with a few stretches. So bring the soles of your feet together. We're going to move into a butterfly stretch here. You can splay the knees out to the sides. Sitting up really nice and tall. If it feels good, you can hinge forward. Feeling the stretch in the hips and the inner thighs. Lengthening through the spine. If you'd like to apply a little bit of pressure to the legs, you can push the knees a little closer down toward the mat. Not to the point of pain, but just to deepen the stretch if that feels good. For 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Release. Nicely done. That felt good. Cross your legs nice and even across your hips. From here, we're going to take the hands on either side of the head. We're going to curve inward, rounding through the spine. Inhale and exhale to open, extending the spine. Inhale and exhale to stretch and open. Inhale, curve forward. Exhale, open through the chest for 2. And final 1. And bring the spine back into neutral. Lift your shoulders up by your ears and roll them down and back. For 3. And 2. Melt those shoulders down. And final 1. Melting shoulders down and back. Amazing work. I hope you really felt your pelvic floor and core muscles strengthening with those exercises. Thank you so much for joining me. Fantastic work. I look very much forward to working out with you again next time. See you soon.